Hello everyone, it's Melanie here with Vintage Hill Studios. Thank you so much for dropping by today. I'll be doing this Pup on a Truck watercolor pencil card, and today we're going to mainly concentrate on the watercoloring concept more so than the card making. So let's get started. This is a Stampendous rubber stamp called Pup on a Truck, and I'll be using this with my Tonic Studio stamping platform. You can see there is a little area on the back of the stamp that has some plastic coating. You want to leave that on there and place it onto your watercolor paper like this. Now I'm working with the Canson XL watercolor paper in 140 pounds. I'll take my Memento Rich Cocoa Brown ink and get that stamped onto my watercolor paper. Now it's very important to work with a stamping platform when you're using watercolor paper, because the paper itself is very porous and it takes a few times of stamping to get a good impression, as you can see here. Alright, I'll get one more stamping done and then we'll move on to the watercolor process. Now the idea, and I'm not an expert on watercolor, but the idea is to keep it light and airy, and I will do my best to demonstrate that in this video. So I've got a couple of watercolor brushes, my watercolor pencils, a little scrap of tile there, some water, and a paper towel. And what I like to do is go around some of the details of my main image. I'm going to take this a little bit slower so you can see how I do this, and then the rest of the video will be sped up quite a bit. But you can see I'm just making a few outlines here of my main image, which is the truck, using this aqua colored watercolor pencil. And I like to take this approach just to get started. And you can see, well, I think most of my watercolor goes through an ugly duckling stage, meaning you're going to go back and add layers to your image until it comes out the way you like it, knowing that watercolor generally dries back a little lighter shade than what you initially apply. So I'm going through, this is a pretty intricate little stamp, so I have to pause every now and then to make sure I am coloring in the right sections here of the truck. Alright, you always want to leave a little white highlight wherever there are rounded parts of your image. So say the top of the truck, along the fender wells of the truck, those are rounded, so you want to make sure that the rounded portions of that stay shades lighter than your main color. Alright, I'm going to be working with this larger watercolor brush here. You can see I'm saturating the bristles, making sure they're very wet, and then I dab that off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to lightly start from where I've drawn in lines with my colored water pencil. Again, leaving that highlight at the top of my truck and wherever I think it would be lighter on the actual image itself. So at the top of the cab, along the top of the fender wells, a little bit on the doors, wherever you think light would naturally hit on this truck. Now you can see I've got a little bit of brown ink there above this fender well that I'm working on. That doesn't bother me. You'll see how I'm going to fix that later on in the video. Again, just working in small sections here, and it dries fairly quickly if you keep your brush pretty light on the wet side. That's why I continue to dab it off on my paper towel, because I don't want a lot of water in my brush. Now I'm painting the tailgate, which is down, and then I was debating on what to do with the bed. I think the image on the packaging shows that the bed is of wood, but I decided to go with the same color as the truck, which happens in some of the, real life trucks have the same color in the bed as on the body. So here I'm just going to work in the next paneled section and along the doors with a little more color here, and then I'll take that semi-wet brush and pull that color out. Again, working in sections, just adding some depth. You'll see I go back and forth here, darkening up the areas that would naturally be darker if the light were shining down. I always think of it coming down from the upper right corner, as if the light's shining down. That's how I try to figure out my shading. Okay, so again, adding layers in here just a little at a time and going back and forth with my water and pulling the color out. Now you can see it's starting to take some shape and not look like such a flat image. And that's one of the reasons you want to leave the highlight at all the curved areas of the truck. It's an adorable image. It's really fun to work with, and there's so many possibilities. So another little trick I like to do is use my brush with a fair amount of water on it and just pull the color right off of the pencil. This will give me a little deeper color of the shade that I've already applied on the truck, and this just gives me the opportunity to add more depth, more shading. You can see how quickly this goes. Okay, and that was coming along just fine. Then I decided I'm going to bring in a little bit of this blue and mix it with the aqua to give me just a deeper shade of aqua to really make this truck pop. Okay, now you get the idea of working in sections. And I'm going to speed this up quite a bit after I get through showing you how I painted this truck, because the technique is the same no matter whether you're working on those small flowers or the baskets or the tires or anything else. The same technique applies, just use different colors. Here I brought over some of that orange and mixed it with that blue-green color, and it came up to a little muddy shade that I wanted to add touches of rust to make this truck look a little aged and a little older. But I didn't want the bright orange shade. So that's why I mixed it with a little bit of the blue that I've already used in the truck to add some of that extra deep shading. Okay, so you can see how this is coming along. It's looking pretty good. Now I'll move on to some of this bumper area and my tires, and as I said, I'm going to speed this up quite a bit, and I'll move right along here. There's no need in talking through all of this, so just enjoy the watercoloring, and I'll get back with you towards the end of the video. Now I'm back and we're just going to add a few details with our little marker here. Going back to anything that might have faded out as we were painting. And we are about done with this whole little painting for our card. Now I'm going to keep the card fairly simple. It is going to be a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. I will cut out this image with a rectangular die and get that put onto a matted card, and that will complete the card for today. I just wanted to concentrate on the watercolor technique because it would be too long of a video to show the whole process of putting that onto a card and everything. So I hope you enjoyed this little video and that maybe you'll get inspired to give watercolor pencils a try. And I think it came out really cute. And working with watercolor pencils gives you so much more control on little bitty stamps like this. So I'm so glad you joined me today. I hope to see you again next week, and happy crafting, everyone.